On today's show, do the Cleveland Cavaliers take enough three-pointers? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is my favorite way to save money on last-minute tickets. So download the Gametime app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDON NBA and get $20 off your first purchase. I am Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. Thanks again to Jake Stevens, as always, for his work on production. Today's show, we're going to start with a big Cavs topic. I think as we get more into a rhythm of a season here, Thursdays may be our big topic day. So if you have questions that you'd like us to discuss, drop them on YouTube, email us at lockedoncavs@gmail.com, tweet us, I guess, or X us, I guess, or whatever social media platform you're finding us from. Shoot us a message. We can talk about it.
Think of it this way. It may be out of style for some of us, but at Locked On Cavs, hot topics still remain.
The one that we're going to do today is one I've seen a decent amount in the little bit I've used the one certain platform, and then also looking at Reddit. And that's, do the Cavs take enough threes? And this is a question that, Evan, I think to start the year, we saw a little bit of uptick in volume. But as of now, Cleveland is taking roughly the same number of threes that it did last year. It's down 0.5%. That's 20th. They're the 20th point rate in the league. On top of that, Darius Garland's frequency and attempts are down. Donovan Mitchell's frequency is down. They obviously have two bigs in the front court. And then you have guys like Dean Wade who aren't really high-volume shooters at this point. So, Evan, where we are right now, statistically, it's about 20 games in, even with adding Strus and Yang. Cleveland's three-point rate is basically the same, and it's still, they don't take a ton of threes. Do you think that is a problem for them as we build this team out and see where it's going to go?
So I don't think it's a problem in terms of sheer volume if they're making them at a higher percentage. Like you are obviously converting the opportunities, which means less chances are kind of being heaved up. I think you and I have talked about this quite a bit. Like the Cavs are finding a rhythm and flow on offense where they predicate things on a downhill attack, and then they allow role players or guys, mostly Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, kind of take advantage of the additional spacing that's already out there with the new guys, and also just the fact that defenses are shifting their focus. So it's not as concerning to me that they're attempting at the same volume if they're converting it more, which in some games they are. Like there's games where the Cavs hardly shoot threes, but they make like a pretty high clip of them. So like you're not too concerned about it because they are taking and making the attempts that they're getting. But I also just think it's going to take some time. I still think about how a lot of the players from last year are still kind of saying that they're adjusting to the newfound spacing. And they had to kind of work with it last year where they didn't have much of 2 7-footers. And also you're just trying to get everyone healthy and kind of back in the flow of things. Like I asked Bickerstaff about this pregame against the Hawks. Like, are you happy with things are at? He's like, yeah, I am. Like we're moving the ball a lot, at least. And I think that's like the first predication of it, but you just kind of have to see where it goes and watch the numbers go. But like, that's my counter question, I guess, is like, are the Cavs making more 3-pointers, even though they're probably taking about the same volume as last year currently?
They're not. They're actually down from last year. So right now, 35.4% from three. That is their 36.9% last year. They're at 35.2% on non-corner threes after being at 36.9% last year. Corner threes, 35.9%, 36.8% last year. So they're not making any more, and they're not taking more. Evan, I do think this is a problem. I think if you're building out this team and you look at where the
now they know that they're making less than last year, yes, this is a problem.
But I just even think beyond that, though, it's still a problem. This is a team that is I think if you look at what they are and you look at what is their potential limitations and things that don't work, I think it is ultimately an issue. They are 19th in half-court offensive efficiency. They're 21st in offensive efficiency overall. They run the 8th most plays in the half-court in the league as of right now. It's a little bit less than last year, but the league's playing a little faster, so they're they're running a ton of their percentage of their plays in the half court. I think something with the offense at times still just feels like it's lacking just a little bit to me. And I think 3-point volume is what plays took. I think there are easy fixes. I think Garland taking more. I think Mitchell ramping it up a little bit, taking more. But I think they have to find ways, I think, to just get some more up at times. I don't think this is exactly a JB thing to love to do because it's a little more volatile. It's not. It's a little more.
He says the league fetishizes the 3-pointer, so.
But this is
that and his rage against machines. So.
But this is I just think you look at it and I think this is how you need to evolve in some way. And I understand they're playing two bigs, but I think they just need to find a way to take more. They're taking a ton of shots at the rim still. They're doing that at a really high clip, which is great. They've cut out some of the mid-range stuff, which is good, I would argue, even if you want some of that. But I think 3-point volume, not saying you need to get up to the highest, you don't have the personnel to do, but I think just a little more freedom from Garland, from Mitchell, and maybe just getting one a game from Mobley, I think it would be a step in the right direction for this team to evolve. Like, I think everything you said is right about the pressure and the spacing and the passing. I think all of the stuff they will say as spin there's some truth to it, but I think there's still more to do here.
Oh, it's a work in progress. I don't think it was ever going to be a quick or immediate fix, but still, like, I think Bickerstaff and Kobe Altman as well saying like they do play a bit of an antiquated style of basketball to some voters, but they need to add a touch of modernity to it, whether that's through Max Strus, who there are nights he's an absolute gangbuster from 3-point range, and then there's other nights his shot isn't falling and he's looking to move the rock a little bit more. And I think that's just a product of trying to figure out the flow and cohesiveness of this new offense and just kind of figuring out the new identities and personalities on this team and kind of building that comfort and familiarity with each other. And Bickerstaff actually talked about this after practice on Wednesday. He's just like, I'm starting to see more of these guys being comfortable with each other because after some bumpy stops to start the season, some ugly, like just flat losses, and maybe times like they shouldn't have had to grind out a win, like the Cavs are kind of digging deep and figuring out who they are. But like the terms of like identity for this team is still a work in progress, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Like the end game vision is obviously more 3-pointers with still like a pretty healthy dosage of rim pressure, especially from your bigs. But I agree with you. Like you hope Garland takes more. You hope Mitchell, who likes to slash and attack the basket more than anything, like maybe floats out to the perimeter because he has the capability to hit threes at a pretty consistent clip for the Cavs. Like that's a thing you want to. But like Evan Mobley, he took a 3-pointer against the Hawks, and you're like, I was walking the concourse at that point to grab a bite, and Tim Alcorn said Evan Mobley made a 3. I'm like, oh, did he actually? And I checked the stat tracker. I'm like, oh, he did. And it's like the second time this year. Like you wanted to take more of that, and I think seeing him take like those baseline jumpers and trying to like make that like a part of his repertoire, and then as he continues to maybe expand it out a little bit, is encouraging, and that's what you want. And then hopefully he becomes a much more consistent 3-point shooter where there is like that Boschian aspect to him where there's like pick and pop opportunities for the Cavs.
I just think even with some of that and some of what they're saying, there's still just something I think here that needs just a little bit of adjustment. I don't think it's the end all be all necessarily, but I think just a uptick in volume there is needed. Like you can be a team like Phoenix where you have KD and Booker and like you have those two guys who are just absolutely apex predators in the half court, and you can survive some of that. You can be some of these other teams and get away with it because you have a certain amount of half-court efficiency and the spacing is still good. Cleveland just doesn't have that, and I think the way to fix some of this is just letting them fly. And I think if I think about guys in the rotation, I think Dean Wade, if and when he comes back and if he plays, just has to let them go. I think Okoro has to let them go when he gets them. I think Mobley, when he gets them, like he did when he made the one at the top of the key, if he gets him, he just has to shoot him.
You're talking about bench guys like George Niang. I would like to see a lot less of him at the ball or trying to drive at the basket and try to draw contact or get like a layup or something like that, but like just take advantage of the spacing and being the screener in like a pick and pop and just using your God-given ability to flare out on the perimeter, because he's another guy. Like he and Dean Wade kind of are part and parcel with one another, whereas like if let's say Wade's shot isn't falling, you hope Niang can give it to you, and vice versa. And Wade, we'll see, because like you said, he's not like a volume shooter necessarily, and I it's still like a little unclear on what like his overall like vision and role is within the offense as just a role player. But like Niang is in that same boat too. Like he is a 40% 3-point shooter from last season. Make him lean on that, strengthen his offensive game to add a little bit more juice, because like, yeah, the Cavs added more volume last season just by adding Donovan Mitchell. They obviously didn't add more right now just by adding Max Strus to the fold. So you kind of have to squeeze the strengths of some of these guys to unlock things for you more offensively.
But even Niang, I would just in on this. He's at 58% of his shots are from three. At last year, 76%.
Yeah, like
before,
that's
67.
Dog, that's still a gap.
Yeah, let me just run through the numbers. 58% this year, 76% last year, 67% the year before, 73% the year before, 69% the year before. His last time he was close to this was 18-19 in Utah, his first season where he played a decent amount of games. That was at 56% of his shots from three. There is something here with what the Cavs are doing that is, it has to be coaching, it has to be strategy at some point. I think altering that is an easy thing to do. All right, coming up after this, Cleveland not being in the season tournament. They got 2 games added to the schedule, Orlando and Miami. We're going to talk about them up next. Today's episode is brought to you by today's title sponsor, and that is Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry about the worst case scenario, getting gouged on prices or anything like that when you're buying tickets to your next big event. So use Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I love the last-minute deals you can get in there. I've used them a bunch, particularly when I went to New York and I wanted to get the best deal possible on Aces Liberty tickets. I use Gametime to do it. Plus, Gametime has a guarantee, the Gametime guarantee. That means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's terms apply. So create an account, redeem our code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute deals, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, schedule update. Cleveland will play the Orlando Magic at home next week, and then they play at the Miami Heat. After that, this is an interesting stretch where they will play the Magic soon after that in Orlando as well. But Evan, what of these 2 games, which one caught your eye a little bit more?
I mean, getting to play Miami so close to after the Heat punked you on Thanksgiving Day is certainly going to be intrigue. Maybe this is the first time the Cavs face Kevin Love this season, just because there's going to be a little bit of that emotional attachment to that matchup. But if people regularly listen to the show, I'm intrigued by young players and also how teams are building. And the Magic fascinate me because they have the potential to be a very, very good team. Like like a first round basement, second round exit as their ceiling in the playoffs. Like that's how high I am on them. And stylistically speaking, like they're a team that can throw a lot of length and athleticism at the Cavs and kind of hit some pressure points that could make Cleveland a little uncomfortable. Like they did face each other in the preseason. I believe this is the first time to play in the regular season this year. So I guess good on the NBA for bumping this game up a little bit, but that'll be an interesting matchup at home. And then like having to go on the road against Miami, like after that, like the South Beach nightlife certainly is a factor in this. Like how do the Cavs kind of handle this and maybe swallow the bitter pill that is not qualifying for the NBA Cup?
I think of these games, the Orlando one is the one I'm going to be really fascinated by just because I'm a little bit obsessed with the Magic and what they are.
Dude, they're so fascinating. Team. Like they have a lot of draft crushes on their team for me to begin with. Like I know people debate
who are your draft crushes?
Well, it starts with Wendell Carter Jr. Love him. And then there is
out with injury right now.
Unfortunately, but still I'm just saying in general. Jalen Suggs I liked. I didn't like his fit with the Cavs when it came draft time, and I think Mobley was the guy, but like he's a dude that interested me. I think Markelle Fultz is fun. I wonder if he ends up being a trade chip for the Magic to maybe go get like a guy like Zach LaVine or something, because I don't think the Magic are going to pay Fultz what he wants. Banchero, of course, whack both the Wagner twins, especially Franz, but like they just have a lot of interesting dudes on their team, and like again, a lot of length, athleticism, and just youth that they can throw at the Cavs just to maybe make them a little uncomfy at home.
They
What about
are. Well, so defensively for me, that's where I start with this team, because Cleveland's offense is the point of struggle with this team, and this Orlando defense is awesome. Even with no Wendell Carter Jr., Goga Batata and Mo Wagner have stepped in very nicely, but that whole defensive team is just, they're nuts. They're fourth in defensive rating right now. Only teams better than them are Minnesota, Houston, Boston, and Boston. They're up there. That defense, it feels very real. It feels elite. They're sixth in net rating. This is just a good team. This is just a real playoff contender.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Mobley versus Paolo, as a Mobley defending him, Paolo attacking him, is a really interesting battle. Paolo has the frame to push Mobley strength-wise at times, but Orlando's guard play is such a cluster and really lacking the juice to kind of feed connected to those guys that he has to create a lot for himself. So you're getting a guy who's really skilled, really strong, but he's attacking you in very suboptimal circumstances in a lot of ways. So this game, to me, Evan, is okay. How does Cleveland's offense look against a really good defense? And then how do they defend a guy like Paolo with Mobley and overall as a team? I think that's a winnable game, and we just saw them beat Philly. We've seen them beat good teams, but it's a good test against a team that is a version of them to some degree. In the Miami one, obviously, it's like you're going to beat Miami, and you maybe like to redeem yourself after the lackluster one you just had against them recently.
Lackluster is an understatement. They got embarrassed by the Heat. Like, to be frank, like I think maybe having Isaac Okoro would have made a pretty big difference in like defending against Kyle Lowry going absolutely bonkers from 3-point range. But yeah, we'll see how that matchup goes. But I agree with you. Like the Paolo Mobley thing is going to be really interesting because Paolo's like an interesting case, and I think Mobley is too, of like the quote unquote like big players that are playing in like a positionless league where like Paolo does have the feel like play make, but he is like the guard play situation is kind of understated. Like that's a good point on your part. Like that the Magic are kind of struggling from that spot right now, especially with Fultz out right now. But like Cole Anthony's playing well for the Cavs. I think Suggs has stepped up nicely. Like Gary Harris is there. Like Anthony Black, the guy they picked in the top 10 of the draft last year, like is in the rotation currently, but like when this team is healthy, probably isn't fully in the rotation. But there's just a lot of interesting players. Like the Banchero Mobley one's going to be fun. I think how do the Magic maybe find the way to draw Jared Allen out of the paint to kind of get easier looks at the basket? Like I know Goga's not a 3-point shooter, but like they could force mismatches and kind of like make Allen defend in space at times, especially even without Wendell Carter Jr. out there. Like Mo Wagner can hit threes if you ask him to. But like I don't know, the Magic are just an interesting team where like they build really slowly. They have a very just kind of, like, at least when healthy, very complete roster, 1 through 9 to possibly 10 on a nightly basis. And they even have Jingles out there. Like Joe Ingles is just a fun dude to be around. And I think like he's a fun veteran for them to have.
I think that Anthony Black, I think, will catch. I like him a lot.
You know me, I like bigger point guards. He scratches an itch for me, and it'll take time. I think after maybe they move on from Fultz, he'll get a clearer pathway to get minutes. But yeah,
I mean, but even with Fultz, like even before the injury, he was playing and he was getting chances to close like that. They're giving him a chance to play, and like that team, when you watch them, like over on the Just Basketball show I do with Brendan Clean, we have a segment called Waving the Flag, and the two teams we picked at the beginning of the season to watch and then talk a bunch about it's Orlando and it's the Kings. And we feel we got really lucky that it worked out. We feel very vindicated, particularly with Orlando, even with some of the guard stuff. They've beaten Boston. Like Boston had to run up the score to beat them in group play.
Not only beat Boston, legit. Like they beat Boston by quite a bit, and like had to run. Yeah. The Celtics had to run up the score to close the gap on their behalf.
This is a good team. These are two good tests for Cleveland in the stretch. Miami, we know what they are. Magic are up They're scrappy. They're hungry. They have a really good defense. If you're looking for two interesting games to add to Cleveland's schedule, if they're not going to be in the tournament, these are two good tests for the Cavs as they adjust a little bit. All right, after this next break, going to come back. Cavs have two easy games coming up: the Trail Blazers and the Pistons. What can they accomplish? What can they look to do in those two games to keep building on what is working right now? We'll talk about that up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On and an official partner of the NFL. Right now, they have a great deal for new customers. They get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. So again, that's $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. So you can bet NFL, NBA, anything. I'm going to check right now and see if we have a Cavs Blazers line, but they have a ton of great different options if you're interested. They have spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So check out FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/locked on to get in on the action and enjoy yourself a little bit. That's FanDuel, official partner of the NFL and official sportsbook of Locked On. All right, Evan, these next two games, what are you looking for for Cleveland here?
Well, there's a lot of good momentum, especially after that Hawks game where they were down 10, 12, 14 points at some point. They roared back and really dominated Atlanta. Like, can they keep that momentum and success going, especially at home? But this is just an instance, or I guess an opportunity for one, the Cavs to take care of business against two bad teams, as you noted, heading into this segment, the Blazers and the Pistons. And can they maybe find small opportunities to rest some of their guys that, sure, they're feeling better? Like Isaac Okoro said his knee feels fine. I think Donovan Mitchell's string is doing better, especially how he performed against the Hawks. But just like guys all have random aches and pains. Like, can you afford opportunities against these bad squads to maybe play the guys that don't get a ton of minutes? Like Amani Bates and Isaiah Mobley are out against Portland on Thursday, but maybe they play on Saturday in Detroit. But like, can you afford opportunities to rest some dudes just because like you do have two bigger-ish games next week against Orlando and Miami? But like, yeah, just kind of do some minute managing and also just like don't give these teams opportunities to maybe play around with you. Just put them away early and keep them away for the whole game.
I think you're looking to just build on some of the positives you've had, right? So you get Portland, who's bad, and you just beat the Pistons, who are bad, and that game is away, but you should expect to win. And then you get Orlando, then you get Miami, and then you get Orlando again. So these are two games that I think you need to press to win in a lot of ways, because you do have a tougher stretch coming up. Even if you go beyond the next five, after that you get Boston twice in Boston on the 12th and the 14th. You get the Hawks at home again on the 16th. Houston, who's tough, at home on the 18th. The Dylan Brooks, Donovan Mitchell of it all. That's going to be fun. Then you get the Jazz, who aren't good, but okay. And then you get the Pelicans later this month. Like, you have a run of games here with a lot of quality opponents. I think just taking care of business is option number one. Even if like, okay, maybe you'd like to shave 5 minutes off of Mitchell's night or something like that. I think you just need to press for the win more than anything else. And on top of that, I think just working through some of the offensive stuff we talked about, that has to be the defense. To me, is getting to a really good place. I think that the defensive performance they had against the Hawks was great. I think the offense is where you need to go. And just a quick note on Cavs Blazers from our friends at FanDuel. Cavs are 11.5-point favorites. They are minus 650 and as far as the money line goes. Portland is plus 480 on the money line. So the Cavs are pretty significant favorites in this game. Based on the last time we saw these teams play, that's true. This is just a game you should take care of business, work through some stuff, maybe try some stuff here or there. But I think these next two games are, Evan, momentum builders. I think you just beat Atlanta, take care of business here, win the two games you're supposed to, and move on to the bigger challenges ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Like, just take care of business. And like you said, maybe try some new things, whether that's Evan Mobley shooting more threes or just attempting them at maybe a little bit more of a regular clip over the next two games after him making one against Atlanta. You maybe see Donovan Mitchell just continue to kind of find his groove scoring wise and kind of work alongside Darius Garland, who has been playing out of his gourd, even like with or without Mitchell on the floor. So there's building block opportunities to kind of keep building momentum and success, and which is unfortunate because the Cavs could have used this earlier in the season when they were healthy, but they didn't have that luxury. So now they are using these opportunities in front of them to kind of figure out who and what they are as a team and what they need to address, what they maybe need to eliminate from their just playbook altogether, and just keep moving forward from there.
Injury report, as you mentioned, Amani Bates out 2-way. Ty Jerome still out with his ankle sprain. Ricky Rubio still out with the team. Isaiah Mobley, who is not factored in even as much as Bates, much less Crick Porter Jr., out on a 2-way. And then Dean Wade is still listed as out with the right ankle sprain. But that means Okoro not listed, no designations for Mitchell, no designations for Garland. Like, you are healthy as you've been otherwise. That in itself is positive. For Portland, a 2-way guy. They have 2 guys on assignment, G League, that could or could not be there according to the injury report. Ish Wainwright, is out. Anthony Simons still out, and Robert Williams, the third, out. So you're getting Ayton, you're getting Scoot in the goggles, but a pretty poor team. Evan, if the Cavs are, which game would you say are you more offers more to learn? If you were to just pick one, which of these games theoretically offers more to learn? I'll give you some numbers and let you think about that for a second, just to tell you how bad these teams are. Portland, 26th in net rating, minus 8.3 per possessions. Dead last in offense, 16th in defense. Then you go to the Detroit Pistons, who are 2-15 on the season, somehow with a worse net rating than the Washington Wizards at minus 9.6, 27th in offense, 27th in defense. What's your answer?
I guess Portland, because they're like slightly better than Detroit, I guess.
I think it's Portland just because they're going to throw you more defensive looks, and every quote that I hear from them is not an absolute like call for help.
It's also
Detroit's
you're not hearing
energy.
Oh yeah, God yeah, but they're also not. Yeah, you're not getting like reports of we had 6 guys jump on a live ball during practice. Like, that's a sign of progress. Like, I'm like, that is grim. If that is like bar for success, like that's I'm just waiting for the Pistons to say that they paint black stripes on the base or the basketballs during practice, and they wear different colored pennies to do different types of sets and stuff, and it's polar bears and all that crap. But I know Monty's actually coach was good in Phoenix, but not so great in Detroit or any other stuffs.
Just giving me just some real bad vibes out of Detroit right now. But that's going to be it for today's Locked On Cavs. Evan and I will be back after Cavs Blazers. Please tune in. Then thanks again to Jake Stevens as always. Enjoy your Thursdays, people. Talk to you after tonight's act.